Thank you for joining me on another episode of The Art of Comic Writing. I'm your host, Jorge Medina. That's George with a J. And before we get to it, I got to give a big shout out to Mr. Morgan Quaid for that opening music. That music is dope. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it, and I want to thank you, sir, very much for the job you did on composing that tune for me. So thank you very much. That's first and foremost. I am also going to ask you guys, you ready for this? I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and even more importantly, and this is important. I tell you this every week, but this is very important. This is why I say it every week. I want you to share this video out to anyone who has ever attempted to write a book. And I say this all the time, a comic, a poem, we're going to talk. We're going to talk to writers about the do's and don'ts of writing. Today, I have a great guest. I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it, but I definitely want you guys to, share it out there. If you know somebody who wants to write or is a writer, is having trouble with some stuff about writing, send them over here. Send them over. Let them know. Let them know the show exists. So share it out. And I think that hopefully they learn something, or they can say, "Nah, man, that didn't help me out." But either way, send them out here. All right, all right. Now, I'd like to thank my sponsor of today's show, and that is our friends at Gig. Do you have the next best-selling comic book idea, but have no idea how to get started because you're an artist and not a writer, or vice versa? Then go to globalindiegroup.com and find exactly what you're looking for. Gig has a list of writers, artists, editors, colorists, letterers, even podcasts on the platform to help you bring that comic book to life. Sign up today to get started and make sure you provide the promo code WRITING at checkout. What are you waiting for? Go to globalindiegroup.com today and get started on the next best-selling comic book you've been wanting to create. Elements of good writing. What are some of the ones you've heard of? Focus, development, correctness, unity. I like this one. Coherence. Make it make sense. I think those are great, and I think those are important. Are there more? When we are writing comic books, do they change, or do we add more elements? Today, I sit down with my guest, and we discuss this very topic. Plus, we are going to talk about writer's block and how to combat it. Also, you already know we're going to give him a writing prompt as a parting gift. All right, that's right. So, okay, and without further ado, please welcome my guest this week. This gentleman is the writer and creator of a book that has been very well received by critics and fans, not only in the US, but also in parts of the UK. And that is the book called Cross. He also has an executive seat on the board at Prano Comics, and he's got one of the coolest names around. Please welcome Mr. Dennis Knight. What up, D?
Hey, man. How's it going? Thank you for having me.
Man. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. This has been a long time coming, man. A long time.
Man. We've been talking about it for months. So I'm glad we could get together and do this. I'm very happy.
I know. It's good. When I finally saw you at the New York Comic Con this year, that's when I was like, all right, cool. We got to get
this. No, that was a good time, man. We got to do that again soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. But for everyone watching, you guys know how this goes, right? I'm going to sit down, me and Dennis. We're going to have, Dennis and I should say, we're going to have a conversation about writing. We prepared some questions. We're going to go back and forth, little Q&A, and we're going to get his perspective on writing. And then at the end of the show, before we sign off, like I like to do, I'm going to give him a writing prompt. It's a writing prompt that, you guys can also do if you're interested. It's a 15-minute little writing prompt. It could be a scene. It could be a short story, whatever you want it to be. And if you guys are interested in having it published, I will put it on my website if you decide to email it to me. My email address will be in the show notes. All right, D, you ready to rock?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, my brother. So, first question. We're going to start off right off the bat with this one. Yep. Do you believe in writer's block?
Yes.
What do you think?
It's a real thing, and I hate it. It's terrible.
It is a real thing, right? Like, you're just sitting there, you have no idea what to do next. So this jumps us right. I mean, that was easy. So this one, guess what? What do you do when you get stuck? Like, what do you
for
do?
me, I've learned that if I step away from it and I take a walk or like go see a friend for dinner or play video games, do something that's not writing,
Mm,
that helps me, like, I guess, subconsciously, like, loosen up my brain. And then it comes to me when I'm not thinking about it. Then I just jump right back to it.
interesting. So stepping away helps you out.
Yeah.
Not yeah, because some people try to like fight through it, and
Mm-mm.
I feel like the more you
Don't do
fight,
it.
the
The
more you
more you
try,
write, the
right?
worse it's gonna get. Just step away,
Yeah,
take a break. Don't beat
yeah,
yourself up. It happens. I
mhm,
mean, you're human, and the
yeah,
brain doesn't always work like you want it to work. So it's like you might, especially like you're trying to get a scene just right. You're trying to pick the perfect word or the perfect sentence. Sometimes it just doesn't come, and there's nothing you can do about
mhm.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. D-
and then you psych yourself out. So what I do is, I used to try to power through it, and I used to get so upset. I just like rewrite everything anyway. So I just, you know what, let me
mm,
walk away. When it comes, it comes, and then it comes, and then I do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you find that's really helped you. That's really like
Yeah,
just
I
stepping
mean,
away from it.
muscling through it doesn't really help anybody. It just makes you mad, and then makes you don't want to be a
Mhm.
writer in the first place. So don't do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? I think sometimes we get in our heads and we start questioning
Of
why we're
course,
doing this.
I want to
Should
quit
we be
writing
doing
like so
this?
many times. Like, yo, I'm gonna join the circus. I'm not gonna do this. It's terrible. Terrible life.
Uh,
Don't recommend. Don't do it.
so now let me ask you this. So all right, so you beat the writer's block, you're ready to get back into it.
Yep.
What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused or to help you finish what you started? What
Music,
is it about your writing space that you need to help you do
music, good lighting,
that? Mm,
lots of paper, lots of pens. Yeah, that's, I don't need much. Like, I have my computer. I usually write my stuff on the notebook first with pen and paper.
yeah.
Then I look it over. Make a little, like, you cross out your words, you move stuff around, and then like once I'm done with that, then I actually type it on the computer.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I do too, man. I'm old school, bro. I have so
I've
many pen.
tried the recorded thing. It doesn't work for me. It makes me feel weird. I don't like it.
Well, that and like for me, going right into the computer doesn't work for me either because I
Right.
think I type too slow. So
Right.
like my brain is faster than my fingers can
Right.
type, and so I'm
Yeah.
not
I mean,
getting
so it
everything
makes
down.
sense.
Yeah, but when I'm writing, when I'm actually, I got a
Yeah.
pen and a pad, I'm better that way. Do you like do you go into like outlines or like what do
Um,
you
it
do?
depends. Most times I'll do an outline first, just kind of get it out of my brain, and then also give it
Mhm.
like a sequence of events of what's going to happen in the story. Once I do that, I look it over, and then I actually start, like, doing the actual script itself based on the outline that I did.
Roger that. Now you did mention music. What kind of music are you listening to when you're
Man, I
writing?
listen to everything. I listen to hooligan music, rap music,
Mm.
doo-wop, classic rock and roll, anything that gets me in the mood. Like, I listen to it. Pop music sometimes. It just depends.
Does it depend on what you're writing?
Sometimes, other times, it depends on what I want to listen to. Like, what's going to get me motivated, what's going to get me in the mood. I listen to a lot of DMX.
Yeah.
All the movie that, like, makes you want to rob people, that's music I listen to when I'm writing my comics.
DMX, huh?
DMX,
What what
Biggie,
what what
Tupac,
what
gangsta
particular
stuff.
track? What particular track of DMX is that?
When
Which
I
album?
listen to DMX, is usually like "As Dark as Hell Is Hot," like the whole
Yeah,
album. I just let that rock, and then I write while it's going. Like, I like albums where I don't have to skip. So
yeah.
like my writing partner asked me, "Well, how much did you write today?" Well, 2 albums. So like I pick 2 albums, and I'll write until the album's over. Like, no skipping
Nice.
on to just listen to it all the way through.
But see, this is where I struggle when when I try to do stuff like that. For example, like an album like that, for example, because if I'm trying to write while that is bumping in my head, I'm singing along to the lyrics
Oh yeah,
and
me
I'm
too.
not paying attention. So how do you avoid that?
I just like hyper focus. Like, I let the
Yeah.
words. I focus on the story, not the lyrics that I'm listening to.
Mm,
Like the lyrics and the beat that keeps me real and that keeps me typing. But I
mm.
don't type what I'm listening to. I separate the lyrics from the words that I'm writing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I'll start rapping along, dude. I'll start rap
Oh yeah, me
that.
too.
Yeah,
So DMX, Big Pun, Capital Punishment, I
big
listen to that.
fun.
Like,
Nice.
front to end, no skips.
Right.
Right, that Biggie, Ready to Die, I listen to that
Mhm,
front to back,
mhm,
no skips.
mhm.
So those are stuff that I pick because I know I've read this those albums like thousands of times, so I already know what's coming. I don't
Yeah.
have to skip it. I know what to expect, so just let it play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nah, good point. You also mentioned lighting
Yeah.
as part of your space. What
Yes.
like you just have like a spotlight on the computer? Like what when you say
Yeah.
lighting,
Just I have a floor lamp. I have my ceiling fan light, and then I have a little desk lamp. I kind of angle it on like the paper, or so I can see what I'm writing.
What time of day are you the most creative, do you think?
It depends. Like usually, because I work a day job, so I usually I write little notes to myself while I'm at work, and then when I come
Mhm.
home, I kind of like sit down, go through everything. It's just like little scraps of paper, like dialogue, story ideas, stuff like that. And then I came home, and when I have time, like usually on my days off, I usually sit down, spread everything out, and then kind of like go through it. Okay, this is good, this is bad, and then fix up what I want to fix up.
Roger that. All right. So I know that you've worked on your own book,
Yep.
Cross,
Yes.
is your creator own project, and you worked on that. But you've also worked on other projects for other people, other people's
Yes.
properties,
Thankfully,
right?
because they give me money and I buy food with it.
So you've done that. Now, how do you approach writing someone else's property versus writing your own? So if somebody's watching this and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, I'm getting hired to write," how do you approach that versus writing your own stuff? What do you do?
Well, the biggest thing is to respect the creators, which whoever hires you is their story, not your story.
Mm,
So you can make suggestions, but at the end of the day, is what they say. That's what goes in the story. That's what goes in what you're writing. So I try my best to respect his page count. He wants a certain amount of pages, and that's it. I try not to go over. I try to do less. And
right.
then like I try to hit all the major points in the actual outline. Like make sure that happens in the story. Try not to leave anything out because it's like I want them to be happy with my work.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to rewrite anything because nobody wants to rewrite. But at the same time, it's like we don't like try to do it but the way they want it first. Is going to be a rewrite.
Right. Right.
So I try
Right.
to avoid the rewrites. I try to like be as accurate as possible, and also like we talked before, keep the deadline because they want the script by a certain date. I try my best to give it before that so they have time to look it over, make notes,
Mhm.
give it back to me. I can fix it so like I don't mess with their production or their printing or whatever.
Right. 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 Now, do you incorporate some of what you're saying into your own writing, like where like bullet points? You know what you want to
Yeah,
happen, or are
sure.
you more like it's mine? So I'm
No,
just gonna.
no. It's because when you free write like that, is like you get
Mhm.
like a lot of material. Like you get like thousands and thousands of pages, and nobody's gonna sit down and read all of that.
Yeah.
So you can make notes to yourself, but you pick out the most important events in the story, and that's what you focus on, and then you have to kind of like weave everything together.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, I think one of the most important things that you said, other than deadlines, obviously we want to hit those deadlines.
Right.
But I think the other thing you said was respecting the person's story
You
and
have to,
respecting
man.
their right. And I think that you have to come in there with that mindset to say, okay, I am. This is a work for hire.
Right.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to pretty much. It sounds crazy to say give them what they want. I mean, at the same time, I think that if that person hired you, they respect you as well.
Right.
And they understand that you're going to bring a
It's a
certain
two-way
level
street.
of exactly. You're going to bring a certain level of professionalism and skill that where they can trust you with
Right.
their project because they're trusting you with their baby in a sense,
Right.
right? And so you got to have that mutual respect. But that's good. That's good, man. I appreciate you saying that the respect factor because I think
Dude,
it
it's like they're
cements the
giving you
bond.
money. Like, it's like
Right.
it's just like any other job. You show up to a job, you do what they tell you, you get paid, and you go home. Same thing with
Right.
writing.
Right.
Like you can make suggestions. You may not 100% agree with what the direction that they're taking, and that's fine. That's okay. But at the same time, like you can make suggestions, but if they say nope, that's what I want, that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find and this is circling back to the first question about the writer's block, right?
Mhm.
Do you find you get that writer's block more on your own stuff or on the stuff that you're hired to do?
It's both, man. I remember I
Yeah,
was
it
working on
happens both
part one
ways.
of Plan 79. I was stuck on a page for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
I was trying to incorporate, like certain elements and like how to make it like seem like make it connect seamlessly, not force it.
Mhm.
So it took me a while. I finally got it. I was like, when I've got it, I was like, "Ooh!" I felt like I felt like I won the lottery because it's like 2 weeks of staring at the paper,
Oof.
trying to different things and they're not working, and just like it's so frustrating. It drives me crazy.
The how long does it take you to write a script normally?
If anybody wants to hire me is listening, I could do it in about 3 days.
3 days. Damn, that's great, dude. That's
Not
great.
three, no, 3 days, 30.
Oh,
30.
30 days.
I wish I
Oh,
could do
three
3 days. I mean,
days.
like to be honest,
Like,
like
damn.
I give myself time for mistakes,
Yeah.
edits, stuff like that. So perfect
Writer's
world, I
block.
could give you a script in 30 days or less.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to give your time for all those things because
Yeah,
you never know. You never know. Like you said, like we talked about writer's block. You were stuck for like 2 weeks on that one page. I mean, then
yeah,
at that point you have to kind of like make everything else happen within a certain amount of time.
Yeah. It's all about respecting your time, managing your time, and just like being honest with yourself and who hires you.
Mm,
Like you
yeah.
tell them anything, but it's like let's be real. Like the internet is out there, so anything you say can be fact checked and looked up. So be honest, tell them what you can do and what you can't do, and just like keep it a buck.
100%. All right, let's talk a little bit now, about the topic. I like to have a topic for the show, and today,
Yeah.
I thought that it would be interesting to talk a little bit about the elements of writing,
Okay.
right? And what is the most important, or what are the most important elements of good writing? Good writing. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Elements. You need to be able to invoke emotions. That's very, very important. Like you don't want someone reading a story just going through the motions. You want them to like feel something, whether they're angry, whether they're sad, or they're enraged. Your job is to invoke those emotions in your story. Another thing is like character development. Make sure your character has an arc. Make sure your character has changes. Make sure your character is believable, because if your character is not believable, nobody's going to care what happens in your story.
So, I talk to a lot of my friends, and we talk
Right.
about writing, and we talk shop and stuff like that. And we talk about characters and plot, right?
Okay.
Do you feel what's more important to you? Do you feel like the characters are more important to you, or the plot of the story is more important to you? Are they equal, or like what do you think about that?
It depends on what you're going for. If you're going for a character-driven story, definitely the characters are more important than the actual story itself, because you want the readers to focus on the characters, so the development has to be really, really there. But also, I always say you gotta take the ordinary day-to-day functions and make it extraordinary. That's what like makes a comic book story a comic book story.
Mm,
Like imagine you're walking down the street and you're going to the store to buy some milk, and it should be like an everyday occurrence. And then like a giant monster like comes from behind the building. What do you do? Because the whole thing about writing is like ask yourself questions and answering your own questions of what a character would do in this story. So now you have this extraordinary event. How does the character deal with this extraordinary event? And like what happens? And is he going to win? Is he going to fail? Those are all the questions you have to ask yourself, and then like answer it for the reader.
I think again, and sometimes, because we're so into the story, we sometimes, and this is why I think I'm a big proponent of, like, of editors, and even beta readers, because I think that helps with clarity,
Sure.
right? Clarity, precision, development,
Yeah.
organizing your story so that it all makes sense.
That's the
Obviously,
goal. Yeah.
grammar, spelling, typos,
Yeah.
things like that. And I think that if we're left to our own, and listen, some people may be able to do it. Some people may be able to just write their script and everything just makes sense, and they're great at it. I
Sure.
can't do that. I can't do that. So I try to make sure that I when I'm reading even after I write my first draft, I read through it and make sure that it looks like, okay, there's a focus. I know
Yeah.
what I'm writing about. I
Right.
know what I'm writing about, right? And like you said, those characters, they make sense. They they're acting like they should be acting,
Right.
even 6 scenes down the road. They don't
Right.
all of a sudden change. And it's like I'm writing about John, and on page 1 he's one way, but by page 22 he's completely not. And that could be the arc of the character, which
Right.
is fine. But if I haven't reached that arc yet, but he just sounds completely different, that can throw the story off.
Yeah. It
If
could,
that
it,
if that
it
makes
could
sense.
it could destroy your story, because it's like every
Mm,
character has a moral compass. So the moral compass that kind of like guides the character of what the action the character is going to take through the story.
yeah,
Now, if you change the actions, that's fine, but it has to be a reason behind it. You can't just like make him do something he wouldn't do out of nowhere, because that doesn't make any sense.
yeah, yeah. And you can't just throw in plot devices to help them with that, because that
No,
gets boring as
it
well.
has to be organic. Like if the
Mm,
character is going through something, you want the character to change either for better or for worse. That's fine, but there has to be reasons behind the change, and you have to be able to explain the reasons without spoon feeding the reader
yeah.
what the reasons are.
How do you avoid some of those mistakes? Like, what do you do to kind of avoid those?
I really just like, because my thing is like a story is a living thing. It's a creature. It's not a piece of paper. It's an actual living thing. So you listen to the living thing, like because sometimes I hear voices in my head from the characters, and they're talking all the time. Sometimes I can't sleep because they won't shut up. So it's like a lot of times you have to kind of listen to the voices in your head, man, and write it down because sometimes you'll come up with your own solution to your own problem just by listening to the characters in your head.
Wow.
The characters
Wow.
will tell you what to do if you
Mm.
listen.
Do you take the time to kind of like write bios of each character? Like, do
Yes.
you
I
do?
like bios because the thing is that I can't draw, so I have to like kind of write and describe what the character looks like in my head, and then give
Mhm.
it to artists so the artist can draw it out. I do like I do basic body stats, height, weight, eye color, hairstyle, wardrobe, um, abilities the character has, any abilities, weaknesses, and then I just kind of like break it down and I send it to the artist, and the artist draws it out for me.
Okay. All right. Do you go into like and I've read some places where they say, when you're creating a character, when you're writing a character, know everything about that character. Write him from the moment. If you're writing like a 34-year-old, let's just say, know
Yeah.
what he did, what he was doing when he was 10 years old, know what he was doing when he was 15, 20. Do you go that deep into it, or it depends on the character, depends on the story?
I think it's more for myself than for the actual reader. You don't have to write down every
Yeah.
single thing the character has been through, but you should be mentally aware of what the character has gone through prior to being in your story.
Yeah.
It could be something for later on, you never know. But that's one thing I learned is like you really have to know what's for you and what's for the reader, as far as like building your characters, building a story. Because every note that you write is not going to go in your story, but it's more like just for your peace of mind, as opposed to like the reader.
Yeah. Well, I think that what that does too, knowing your character that deeply helps you in situations where you're kind of sometimes when you're stuck
Right,
with what happens next, you can always go back to, oh wait, this happened to this person when
right,
and the reader doesn't know that. Like you said, the reader has no idea
right.
what this character went through because you didn't give them that information yet, but and
Right.
because you can put them in those
And
situations.
it helps with the situation, it helps with the writing.
Right, and it helps you with the writing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah. The other thing is, and I was talking to a buddy of mine today, I think when we're writing, especially when we're writing comics, when we're writing comic book scripts, we have to remember that the artist isn't the reader. The artist needs to know everything
Right.
that's happening. You can't keep any secrets from your artist because he
No.
has to know or she has to know where you're going with this thing. The reader doesn't, obviously, because that's the reader's a different story. But I feel like the script works as a blueprint for
Sure.
the artist,
100%.
to put to bring your story to life.
Yeah, for sure, man. Because it's like the artist might have an idea to portray something visually that you didn't think of, but you have to tell the artist the whole entire story. Anything that you're thinking of, any surprises, tell your artist because he can actually incorporate it into your actual pages.
Yeah.
Also, with your scripts, don't have detailed scripts.
Mm.
Loose description, because when I first started out, my scripts were like 60 pages for a 24
Wow.
page book because I described everything down to the
Yeah.
color of bricks, down to the number of bricks inside the wall of a building. And my artist was like, yo, I can't draw all this. It's too much detail. You have to like
Yeah.
scale it back a bit. So once
Mm.
I scaled it back, it just gave like general description and let the artist do the rest. Then it was a lot easier for him and for me because
Right.
my scripts were down to like 20, 25 pages as opposed to 60 pages because I let the artist be an artist, let the artist do their job.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens too is, just like in anything else, if you see something that's like a paragraph long, you lose interest right away. You
Sure,
stop
it's too
reading.
much. So
You
much,
stop
too
reading,
much information. Yeah,
yeah, you're overloading it. You're
yeah,
overloading them with
sure,
the
100%.
information, and they don't need it. They don't need it at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't need that much information. Do you when you're writing, as far as the elements of some good writing, do you keep your audience in mind? Is that something that you're keeping in mind as you're writing?
I've I focus more on the story itself because if it's a good story, the audience is going to take to it no matter what. So I don't really write with the audience in mind. My focus is like, okay, I'm going to write a good story, and I want somebody who isn't my mom or my cousin to read it and like it. Someone who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know me, I want them to read it like because the thing is like I don't think I'm famous. I don't think I have a whole bunch of fans. People tell me I have fans, but like, okay, yeah, whatever. But it's like every time I write something, I treat it as if it's the first project that I ever had.
What's your favorite I guess genre to write? What is your favorite?
If I had to pick, probably superhero stuff. As you can
Yeah.
see, the Green Lantern's in the background. That's my guy. So anything with superheroes, outer space, science fiction, I'm all in. But also, if you can, I can write anything.
Right, right. And that's the thing. I think that when you're a writer, you just write,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't matter what it is or, what the genre is or any of that stuff. I think that when you're a writer, you're just out there doing your thing.
yeah.
And
You want a
you,
good story.
right, you may like superheroes and stuff, but look at this. You have like you have a completely different, genre that you're writing, but you're still giving it your best and putting your best foot
Yeah,
forward. Otherwise, what's the point?
yeah. I
Right?
mean,
What's the
it's
point?
like you can't just write just one thing.
Hmm.
I think you have to be like the more versatile you are as a writer. I think the more work you will get, like monetarily, and also is like you don't get stuck writing the same thing.
Yeah.
Because no writer wants to be bored. No writer wants to be stuck like writing the same story for the rest of their life. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think part of creative writing is just that, right? Being creative. And I
Yeah,
think that when you are a creative person, I'm not saying force it, right? We talked about,
yeah, sure.
forcing writer's block. I'm not saying force it, but I think you can always give it your spin. I think even if you're writing, say, for example, you've never written, a romance or something like that, but I think that you can give it your spin and
Sure.
it can still be a romance, but it can still, have some of the stuff that you like.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that. And I think as a writer, you should push yourself to do things outside of
You have
what
to
you
challenge
normally
yourself.
do.
You can't stay in your
Yeah.
wheelhouse all the
Yeah.
time. Sometimes you got to like take a swing at something different that you've never done before. Because it's like I never want someone to come to me, hey, I want you to write this for me, and I say I can't do that. Never want to say that.
Mhm. Right.
I might
Yeah.
not know what I'm doing, but I'll fake it. I'll try.
And listen, and as long as like we're talking about the elements of
Yeah,
of good writing, and as long as the do's and don'ts, I think that you can pretty much write anything.
sure.
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to write just about anything if you know the rules. In other words, I say if you know
Right.
the rules, you can break them. I think that you can. I think why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
but some people they're scared, and I get it. Sometimes something's
Yeah.
unfamiliar or something's like out of your like your usual day to day
Hmm.
stuff. It's very
Hmm.
scary. It's intimidating, and I get it. But it's like if you don't take chances, you won't get very far.
No,
That's
a
with
hundred
anything.
percent. Yeah, no, 100%. All right, D. Well, listen, we have one final question. All
Okay.
right, one final question, and then we're going to go into the writing prompt. But the final question is a bonus question. Okay,
Okay.
the bonus question is, what's your favorite YouTube channel, and why is it Get Your Meds? That's it.
Because man, it's like I really number one, I admire your work because I know
Thanks,
you
man.
like from the industry. It's not like you're some guy off the street. I actually know you as a person.
Thank you,
And
brother.
all you see, you're always out there, you're always like, doing shows, you're always like, promoting your stuff, promoting other people's stuff. And it's like now you have a platform to talk to other people about writing because it's like you said, a lot of people they don't talk about writers enough. I
Mhm,
think writers don't get their flowers enough unless they die or whatever. So now you have
mhm.
a chance to talk to a writer while they're actively in the industry and like, actually give advice and the writers can give advice to you and you can share it with other people. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you, thank you. I really, really do appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no problem.
that's the whole point of this thing, right? It's just to just give us a platform.
Right,
I know. Listen, you've been writing for a long time. You've been doing your thing for a long time, but unless you have the artist on the show with you to show the pages of your book, or unless
right,
you have, or at a convention, unless the artist is right there next to you,
right, sure.
people kind of just look and say, "Hey," like we were just talking about that. You were saying you're at a convention and you're like, "Hey, guy, are you the artist?"
Did you
And
do it?
we're like,
No. Like, oh,
no.
okay. Okay, I did
No,
that. I didn't do
yeah,
it. No, I didn't do
I
it.
didn't do it. I didn't do it, right? And it's like it's almost like your signature doesn't matter as much as
Yeah, it's
artists.
hard, man,
So
because it's like without us, yes, the artists are. I would say every aspect of the creative team is important,
yes,
but at the same time, it's like the writer is the quarterback. The writer is the one that decides what's going to happen. The writer
mhm,
it's the guy that sets everything up.
yeah,
Because if it
yeah,
was for us, it'd be like a bunch of pinup books, and that's it. There'd be no plot. There'd be
word.
no story, no nothing.
Yeah, yeah, dude. It's funny, and this is off topic. When we were I was at the New York Comic Con. I went over
Yeah,
to the Boondocks
right,
booth, and I spoke to one of the gentlemen there. His name was Peter. Great dude, awesome dude.
yeah,
He ended up giving me like a copy of two of the books that they had there for the
right,
Boondocks, right? And I'm excited. I'm like, oh man, I got some Boondocks book. So when I opened up the Boondocks book, it was just pinups.
yeah,
There was not no story. I'm like, come on. I thought I was gonna
Yeah.
get like some hot Aaron McGruder stuff. You know what I
I
mean?
love the
Like,
Boondocks, by the way.
yes. And it started out as a comic strip in his
It's
college
college
newspaper.
newspaper. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how it started.
Yeah,
And then it went, and then it got published in the Source. Remember when it went into the
yeah,
Source
sure. Yeah, yeah.
magazine from back in the days? And then it got syndicated. And all of a sudden, we had this really good cartoon. But and I love the rise of. I don't think enough is said about the rise of the Boondocks.
I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
like when you see like what they came from is like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the satire is there. It's very
Mhm.
smart show. It's very funny. A lot of
Very
satire,
smart.
a lot of
Very smart.
political,
Mhm.
anecdotes
Mhm.
which I like. And
Yeah.
then he does it in a comical way. It makes you laugh. It makes you think at the same time, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, and the style of the artwork was so
Beautiful,
dope.
beautiful,
Yeah,
man.
it was
Like
so
if I ever
so
do
dope.
something animated, I would like it in that kind of art form, in that
Yeah,
kind of style, man.
100%, 100%. All right, well, let's do the writing prompt, and this goes for everybody out there who's interested. I'm gonna give Dennis a writing prompt. You guys can jump on it, and it's gonna be simple. 15 minutes. Sit yourself down for 15 minutes and write based off of this writing prompt. Whatever you come up with is good. If you feel like, hey man, this is good enough, I think people should read this. Send it over to me to my email address, and I'll post it on my website. But here it goes. And you
Yeah.
talk. It's funny because we talked about this, and I came up with this writing prompt before the show. But you
Okay.
mentioned something about your characters and what they do when you're sleeping, right? So
Okay.
the prompt is the most recent dream you had. Write about the most recent dream you had. That
Okay.
is the writing prompt for everyone. But
Nice.
D, thank you so much for coming on, my
Yeah,
friend.
dude, it
I
was great,
really,
man.
really
Thank you so much.
appreciate
We
you,
got to
man.
get together soon, man. Like
I,
nachos.
yeah.
Like, bro, we live so close to
Dude,
each other. It's stupid that we don't hang out.
I know, I know, I know, and we will. We definitely will, my brother. But
Sounds
yeah,
good,
dude,
man.
thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, no, we'll talk. We'll talk soon, my brother. We'll talk
All
soon.
right. Sounds good, man.
That was Dennis Knight. Dennis Knight, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on. You were amazing. And thank you guys for checking out the show. Don't forget the writing prompt. If you guys want to get down with the writing prompt, the most recent dream you had, make sure that you do. My email address will be in the show notes, and you can always just send me, an email. Say, hey George, this is kind of cool. Can you post it on your site, and I will. Getyourmeds.com. If you want to check out some stuff there, go to getyourmeds.com right now. Also, another thing that I wanted to mention is don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you know exactly when I'm gonna be coming out with these shows. I try to do these weekly. I just don't tell you what day of the week they're coming out. But next week I will have another guest on the show, and please join me. Join me, and let's have a little fun. And don't forget, guys. Hey, keep writing. Peace.